Author Salman Rushdie was stabbed in the neck and the abdomen at a literary event in New York in the US on Friday. He was attacked on stage and is now on ventilator and unable to speak. His agent Andrew Wiley said that in a statement, adding that the author may lose an eye as well. The India-born British citizen Rushdie has suffered years of death threats after writing the Satanic Verses published in 1988. The novel was considered by some clerics as disrespectful to Prophet Muhammad. Now, police detained a suspect named Hadi Matar, who was 24 years old and is from New Jersey. And New York State Police said that the suspect ran onto the stage and attacked Rushdie. He was stabbed 10 to 15 times. No motive or charges have yet been confirmed by the police. Rushdie has lived with a bounty on his head since the late 1980s, after his novel The Satanic Verses was released and it was considered blasphemous. Let me go across now to Aatish Taseer, author, who's joining us with his perspective on this shocking case that the world has been witness to. Aatish, first of all, when we spoke with you right after the news broke yesterday on the attack on Salman Rushdie, you were in shock. Does that sense of shock continue, that an assault of this nature could happen when
I'm really
probably
happy to
Salman
tell you that
Rushdie
I've
had
just
assumed
received...
that all was well now?
I'm just happy to tell you that I've received some excellent news from a friend. Salman has made it. Just heart, 90% breathing on his own, brain activity normal, alert, one eye open, no blood clots. And so we've had the most hideous 24 hours, but I think that at least we know that he's a little bit in the clear now.
That's great news, and thank you for sharing that bit of information that you had. But a sense of shock still prevails amidst the writers' fraternity, specifically?
Absolutely. It's absolutely horrendous, and everyone is kind of reeling from it, especially because this was one of the places where he felt so safe. And it had been kind of in his mind as a place where he could move past the danger of those earlier years. And so to have it happen here, I'm upstate right now. It's not very far from where it happened, or it is far, but it's in the kind of still in the same vicinity. And so, yeah, I mean, a sense of peace has certainly been shattered in this area.
Would you say that such attacks are meant to instill a sense of fear in artists, authors, creative people in general, who like to question, who like to offend, because that's part of their art, their job?
I mean, 100%. I think that that for a writer to take a provocative stance, to sort of complicate matters, to kind of find a little area, those sort of like that sort of the sort of nerve, as it were, and to sort of write around that, and to sort of, it's so much part of one's work. And, you know, to be in a situation like this where you're simply doing your work as a writer, and to have a kind of vigilante of some sort leap onto the stage, a fanatic attack you like this, I mean, it completely destroys the sort of security that any artist needs to perform.
Also, the fact that this attacker, and we know only his name and his age at the moment and where he came from, just 24 years old. Does that surprise you? He wasn't even born when this entire controversy around the Satanic Verses was around. And, you know, after almost a decade, Iran withdrew that fatwa as well. For him to take such a serious note, if at all that was the motive, I mean, one can never be sure because the police hasn't said it officially.
Yeah, I mean, one can conjecture, I suppose, and maybe one is, but, you know, there's been so much of this, of a kind of radicalization through social media, through the internet. And so, like, it surprises me, I suppose, but also it feels very familiar. You know, we see it with white nationalism. Very recently, there was an attack on a mall here, black people killed by a guy who'd driven in. He'd been radicalized on the internet. And so, yeah, I think that when this stuff, when the seeds have been sown, then you kind of wait a little bit longer down the line for the fruit of it. And it was very much like that with the jihad, even when it seemed that it was at its peak in 2001. And, you know, my father was killed victim of Islamic radicalism, and his killer was very young as well. So in a sense, like, a certain kind of young person is almost the most susceptible to being radicalized, and it's part of the sort of danger of these, when these ideologies are so easily available.
Should artists at risk be taken more seriously then by the security apparatus?
I mean, yes, but I think that one of the things that Salman at least really kind of prized was his freedom, his ability to move everywhere. And I think that he really loved the fact that he often thought that it was the press that would whip people into a frenzy, or politicians, but that individuals, if left to themselves, or among individuals, he was safe. And obviously that conviction has been totally shattered today. So it's very hard to prepare for the danger. In this case, one had almost felt it had subsided. There was a period when the fatwa and its sort of ramifications were being felt very, very quickly, one after the other. Both his publisher attacked in translator in Turkey, his publisher in Norway, his translator in Japan, and then for so long it had seemed to go quiet.
Aatish, are you still there with us?
Yes.
Oh, Aatish, final question to you. Are you surprised that there hasn't really been a strong statement from the Indian side? After all, India was his place of birth, even though he was a British citizen, is a British citizen.
I'm appalled by that, actually. And, you know, I felt in similar ways disowned by India. And I hope that there isn't some kind of sectarian reason for it, because Salman Rushdie is one of the shining jewels of Indian literary production, and you'd imagine the first people to jump to his defense should be the Indian Prime Minister, especially since a Congress Prime Minister was the first person to ban the book. So there's a real debt that we owe Rushdie, and it should absolutely, one should take him to one's heart at this moment, and I'm very, very surprised not to see it.
Aatish Taseer, many thanks for speaking with NDTV.
Absolutely.